Hi, everyone. Thank you for all your comments and feedback regarding last week's episode, particularly on my dressing. Some people were saying they liked the way I put my cap. It was in the spirit of independence. But yesterday ended last night. So let's focus on today's episode. At the last episode, we already introduced the concept of value added tax, and we left that episode by establishing that there are two major prongs that you need to remember: output VAT and input VAT. Once you understand those two major prongs, then you don't have anything to worry about as far as VAT is concerned with respect to your business operation. We are going to be focusing on VAT, the concept of VAT for this month of October, such that we are very well abreast of what is expected of us as a business owner. And everything we are going to be saying for this episode, for instance, is going to be focusing on the law as it is right now. At the point where we'll be talking about what has changed, just like we did in some previous episodes. If you want to check those episodes, you can check them out, in my YouTube channel, or check them out in other videos that I've posted from other social media platforms. You would see that we had touched on some of those changes, but we are going to elaborate on them in the days to come. But for today, we want to narrow down on output VAT. When we take output VAT, when you talk about output VAT, you know the output VAT is the VAT that is charged on your sales, and that is where it gets the name from, output. The VAT is going out. The VAT is going out. That's a very basic way to say it. The rate is 7.5%. There is no gainsaying about that. We all know the rate is flat and the rate is not changing. If you have followed this channel long enough, you will know that the rate is 7.5%. Who is responsible for charging it? You, the business entity that is providing the service or that is selling the good. You are the one responsible for charging output VAT. You are the one that you are going to put that VAT on your invoice. If you are supposed to put the VAT on your invoice and you did not put it for whatever reason, there's a penalty for it. You are following this channel, so you should not be liable, to any penalty. How does this output VAT, how does it fit into the larger framework of VAT reporting? You will see it by the time we talk about input VAT in our next episode. You would see that the VAT that you are required to remit on that 21st day isn't the actual VAT that you've collected. That sounds strange, because government expects you to do some workings back end before you then remit the excess. But we'll talk about it in due course. Another thing to note here is how does this apply to digital transactions and cross-border transactions and the rest. For those of us that have some of these streaming networks where we watch films and the likes, you would observe that, or even platforms where people hold meetings and all that, you observe that something changed recently. They started adding VAT to the invoices that we started getting, even at the individual level. This was something that didn't used to be the case before. Why? Because everyone is trying to comply with what the basic provision is. So it is the responsibility of the party that is providing the service or the party that is selling the good to add VAT to the invoice. I'm an SME. Am I required to charge VAT or not? Exactly the question that someone has at once asked me. If you're an SME and you're not doing turnover of up to 25 million, the law as we currently have it does not require you to charge VAT on your invoice. On the other hand, the law requires the party that is transacting with you, based on Section 14 of the VAT Act, as we currently have it, to account for that VAT on the transaction. I'm going to take that again, because many a times we see SMEs that are not even making 2 million, 5 million, add VAT on their invoices. The law does not require you as an SME to charge VAT right now, based on what we currently have right now. So if you're an SME and you are adding VAT and you do not have turnover that is up to 25 million, you are definitely on the wrong side of the law. And if you are a big company and you are transacting with an SME and the SME is adding VAT for you, it does not absorb you. Does it absolve you from accounting for VAT on that transaction? Yes, an argument will be that there was VAT on the invoice and I've remitted that VAT. But there are instances where the tax authorities could also come and say, oh, you had an obligation, to account for VAT because we knew or we are of the view that this party you have transacted with, is an SME and should not have charged VAT on the transaction. But if you're an SME, you do not need to take up that additional compliance obligation on yourself by adding VAT to your invoice. How about if you have some goods on which VAT should apply, you have some goods on which VAT should not apply, how should you handle them? That is a very specialized situation, and you have to keep the reporting of those goods, separately, such that on the ones that the law does not permit you to charge VAT, you are not charging VAT. And on the ones that the law permits you to charge VAT, you are charging your VAT. So output VAT, essentially, these are the things you need to know when it comes to output VAT. It is more of you doing something that the law requires you to do. And the way to know it is to check whether the goods you are selling or the services you are providing are exempt. If they are not exempt, then VAT applies to what you are doing. I remain Oladejo Adeyemi, and this is Insight with Oladejo. Until I see you again in the next episode, where we're going to be talking about input VAT. Bye for now.